It was a scorching summer afternoon in the Bronx, and Crystal sat on the stoop of her building, braiding her boyfriend Jason's hair. She had always loved the way her fingers moved through his thick curls, and it was a ritual they shared on quiet days like this. The sun was high, the streets were alive with music and laughter, and for a moment, life felt good. Crystal, a beautiful 17-year-old Puerto Rican girl with blonde, curly hair, had been seeing Jason for 5 months now. She thought everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. As Crystal finished up Jason's last braid, a group of girls approached, their footsteps heavy with purpose. Leading them was Damaris, a girl Crystal had never met but whose reputation preceded her. Before Crystal could say anything, Damaris stopped right in front of her, arms crossed and eyes locked on Jason. "So this is where you've been hiding," Damaris spat, her voice dripping with venom. Crystal's heart raced as she glanced at Jason, confusion written all over her face. He didn't say a word, just stood there, frozen, as Damaris continued. "Jason didn't tell you about me, did he?" she sneered. Crystal's mind spun, trying to make sense of what was happening. Jason, the boy she thought she knew, had another girl, a whole other life. She felt her stomach drop. Before she could even react, the situation exploded. Damaris and her crew lunged at Crystal. Jason made a half-hearted attempt to block them, but he was quickly shoved aside. Crystal fought back, her hands swinging wildly, but she was outnumbered. The girls were relentless. They overpowered her, knocking her to the ground, and the beating that followed was vicious. Stomp after stomp, punch after punch, until Crystal lay on the pavement, bruised and bloodied. The pain wasn't just physical, the betrayal hit her harder than any of the punches. By the time help arrived, Crystal was barely conscious. Jason had disappeared, and Damaris and her crew vanished as if nothing had happened. Crystal was rushed to the hospital, her body broken and her spirit crushed. The days that followed were a blur of hospital visits and painkillers. Crystal's mother, heartbroken over what had happened to her daughter, suggested something that Crystal hadn't even considered, moving away for a while. "Go stay with your cousin Nena in Newark," her mom said softly. "You need time to heal, and staying here. It's too dangerous. That girl and her friends will come looking for you." Reluctantly, Crystal agreed. She packed her things, leaving behind the life she had once known, and headed to Newark, where her 19-year-old cousin Nena lived. Nena was a young single mother who had been through her own hardships. Her baby's father had run out on her when she got pregnant, leaving her to fend for herself. But Nena was strong, resilient. She had become an entrepreneur, baking cakes and selling them from her apartment, while also doing hair, nails, and makeup for the neighborhood girls. Her business thrived, and despite the challenges, she had made a life for herself and her son. When Crystal arrived, Nena welcomed her with open arms. She provided a space where Crystal could heal, both physically and emotionally. Over the next few days, the cousins bonded over shared heartaches and made light of their pasts to cope. Nena poked fun at Crystal, trying to lighten the mood. "Girl, you really need some fight lessons after what happened to you," she teased, making Crystal laugh for the first time in days. "I know, right?" Crystal joked back, though the memory of the beating still stung. "You know," Nena said, her tone becoming more curious, "there's this sketchy boxing gym or something down the alleyway in the middle of the block. It looks kinda secret, but maybe we should knock on the door and ask for lessons. It's a vibe, though, kinda mysterious. What do you think?" At first, it was just a joke, but Crystal looked at her cousin, intrigued. "Let's do it," she said, surprising both of them. The next day, Crystal and Nena found themselves standing outside the alleyway gym. It didn't look like much from the outside, just a plain door with a simple boxing gym sign. But something about it drew them in. Nena knocked, and after a few moments, the door opened. Standing before them was a tall, muscular man with a calm but intense energy. His piercing eyes took in Crystal's bruised face and Nena's curious expression. This man was Solo, though the girls didn't know it yet. He sized them up, his eyes lingering on Crystal's injuries before he spoke. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice steady. Nena, usually the more confident one, found herself momentarily at a loss for words. Crystal, still hurting but determined to find a way to fight back, spoke up. "We heard this is a boxing gym," she said, her voice shaky but resolute. "We want to learn." Solo stared at them for a moment, then nodded. "This isn't just a boxing gym," he said, his tone cryptic. "But if you're serious about learning to defend yourselves, come inside. Your lives are about to change." Little did Crystal and Nena know, stepping through that door would mark the beginning of a journey they never could have imagined.